Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
In today's Farm Basics, we're going to take on one of the hot topics around agriculture. It's ethanol.
Well, when it comes to ethanol, there are a lot of misconceptions out there about it. But here's the big thing you need to understand as a consumer. It's a renewable fuel. What else are you going to use that's a renewable fuel? And I know a lot of people like to talk about battery power and stuff, but I mean, let's face it, we don't have that kind of power available in most of our vehicles today. But you know what? We can use ethanol in most of our vehicles. And if they make the engine correctly, you can run 85% ethanol in a vehicle. It's an awesome deal. And here's the big thing, okay? Think about where a lot of our oil ends up coming from. It's the Middle East. What would you rather do? Would you rather pump a bunch of money into the Middle East, or would you rather pump a bunch of money into the Corn Belt in the United States? That's really what this whole discussion comes back to. And some people will say, well, ethanol doesn't have enough BTUs. All I know is this: when I buy ethanol, it's a lot higher octane, and we've run plenty of studies with the right engines. You can get just about the exact same mileage you can out of ethanol as out of regular fuel. So there's more to it than just talking about BTUs. Ethanol is a great fuel, it's renewable, it's safe, it's very environmentally friendly, and it puts the money back into our country rather than in some other country.
We don't see any of these issues that they're talking about with ethanol being damaging to engines. We just haven't had that problem. We've put a couple 100,000 miles, we've each done a couple 100,000 miles on individual vehicles. I mean, we've literally put hundreds of thousands of miles on flex fuel vehicles. We haven't had any problems with this. So I don't know where all that concern is coming from, because it just doesn't appear to be reality.
Well, where the concern would be is if you don't have the right setup in your vehicle. And yes, just by having slightly different lines and just a few minor changes, you take care of all that. But with most common vehicles, you're not going to have that issue. Okay, so here's the main thing I wanted to get to. When you look at, let's talk about ethanol just in general. Everybody says food versus fuel. Come on, that's ridiculous. There's no food versus fuel thing, because here's what we do. When they're manufacturing ethanol, all they're taking out of that corn is a starch. You know how many nutrients they're taking out? N, P, K, things like that? Zero. They're not taking any of that. They want the starch. All those nutrients go in the distiller's grain, that's the leftover byproduct, and then also there's carbon dioxide. Okay, those are the three components when you're all said and done. All right, and that distiller's grain, all you'd have to do is mix that with some corn stalks or something like that to add back some starch, and you're right back to 100%, right where you started in terms of the food. What food did we lose? We didn't lose any food. It's ridiculous. And the other thing that they figure in there ridiculously is the energy it takes to produce the crop. Well, guess what? We were already raising 90 million acres of corn before ethanol even got going. Okay, so you can't figure that. We were already producing the corn. That was getting produced for livestock. So we're still producing the corn for livestock. Now we're taking ethanol out of that and we're supplementing some other things in to help feed the livestock. That's all we're doing. So if you're going to figure all this extra energy, that is ridiculous. It's absolutely dead wrong, and you're getting just horrible information from the mainstream media. I'm telling you, I just think it's a crime that they're misleading the general public. Ethanol is a great thing for America. It's a great thing for the earth, and it's a great thing for the farmer.
Hey, one last comment too. Some of the biggest backers of ethanol have been our retired and current military personnel. They look at this as a national security issue. Here we have the ability to produce fuel safely and cleanly in our own country. And we're all around the world, fighting battles many times over energy. And a lot of it, as Brandon mentioned earlier, is in the Middle East or other parts of the world where people don't necessarily like us so much. It would be so much better for our military as well if we had all this production right here in our country where it's already safe and protected and our people could stay here too.
The other big thing is when you look at ethanol, because of ethanol, the price of fuel today is dramatically lower. So what we want you to do with all this information we've been talking about today is do your own research. You don't have to take our word for these things. There are plenty of good studies out there, but just do your homework on it, and it's not going to take you real long to figure out that ethanol is a great thing for everybody. It's reducing the price of fuel today, and if we have more ethanol going forward, it's just pumping the money into middle America, into the Corn Belt of the United States, into the United States in general, instead of sending all our money overseas.
Well, one other thing that's great for everyone in America is if we could stop this difficult to control weed of the week. We'll show you some steps we'll take coming up later in the show.